Hi everyone, Alexandra here. I'm a marketer and today I'll show you how you can create a live chat for your website with SendPulse. Now, if you've already tried the tool or if you want to try it after this video and you like it, you can find a discount for $20 off for your first purchase of a SendPulse plan. But for the purpose of this video, we're just going to go and activate the chatbots and live chats feature. And here I'm really going to go and add a bot because essentially we're creating a bot. So this is going to have like the conversational features and the chat bot features you might be looking for. And I'm opting for a live chat and I'm going to add it to just my own website instead of adding it to a website you create with SendPulse. By the way, with SendPulse, you can create websites, email marketing campaigns, you can send SMS messages as part of your marketing campaigns, and just so much more. Next is you just customize your widget. I'm really going to just use something, completely different from my website. And for this video, I'm going to just skip the installation process. Again, if you want to add it to your website, you do need to add this script to the code of your website. You have all of the instructions within SendPulse itself. But what's important here is for us to understand how you can structure the chatbot. So at the very top, you will see the website you used for this chatbot. So where the live chat is, because, in case you have multiple websites, you can actually go to chatbots and you will find all of them listed here, where you can just come in and add more bots, so to say, or you can just click on it. And basically here at the top, you have your bot chats. So this is where all of the chats that people initiate with your live chat on your website will be. And this is where you can communicate with, subscribers, potential clients, customers, and so on. And by the way, here at the on the left side of the screen at the bottom, you can see there's actually an app for this. So in case you want to be able to, communicate with people on the go, it's all here. Then you also have your bot settings right here. And this is where you can go into details, such as, if you want to pause an automatic flow on manual replies after a certain, after an hour, after a day or so. You can add bot suggestions, and then there's just like lots of details. Like you can edit again your widget from here. You can decide on your bot greeting here. So, for example, you can be like, "Hi, I'm not Alexandra, but whatever. Got a question." Something like this. Make sure you save everything all the time. Then there's the website integration. This is where you take that script I told you about. Then you have some like details in here because you can actually edit this in more detail or integrate it. For example, you can integrate it with Google Sheets so you can pull like messages in there if you want, to use them to some extent. You also have an API in case you have a dev team you work with and so on. And yes, you also have like a block list in case, you want to block spammers and so on. But what's important for the way the bot is going to work, because that's what matters the most, is the actual structure. So in here, the way this works is kind of like any workflow based on a trigger response system, if you will. So first, at the very top, you have the welcome message. So to edit this, you're literally just going to click on add it to the flow. You have a small tutorial here on how to do it. And basically here is where you're going to, edit everything. You can keep it simple at the beginning, just so you can launch it as quickly as possible and use the template in here to some extent. But I do recommend, editing at least the basics, just so you're customizing things like, like this, for example, is for my own website. So instead of us, we're going to talk about me. And again, I usually reply within a day or whatever. It can be a week and so on. And again, you can remove any kind of bits in here and add more stuff in here. Now, this is it for the welcome message. Don't forget to save it here at the very top because otherwise, By the way, you also have a versioning here. And at the very top, you have this drop down menu where you can go to your standard reply, aka what happens next, so to say. So in here, you have a lot of options. Like SendPulse does give you a lot of really possibilities to customize this flow. So on the left side of the screen, you have all of your options. For example, you can drag a new message in here. You also have a flow, which really kind of like helps you continue certain flows. So, for example, you can move a person from the very first initial flow where you're like, oh, thank you for contacting us. We will get back to you during our working hours. And then maybe you want to move people into another flow. So after you reply to them, they can go into a flow like an onboarding or an upselling or a flow to answer like a very specific question they have, maybe related to pricing. Then on the left again, you have the action point. So this is more of what happens in the back end. So what happens, after you receive a ticket, aka a message. For example, you can add this if you want to change the chat assignee. So for example, if somebody has a question related to pricing, you'll have to redirect them to somebody on a sales team and so on. Or if somebody has a question related to your blog, it's going to have to go to somebody on the marketing team and so on. Or you can do something as simple as just closing the chat. This is a must. So after any kind of inquiry people have, there has to be a stop to it. So you'll always have to have this close the chat option in here. And some other things you might want to try include adding a tag. So again, if somebody asks about a team plan, for instance, you can tag them with something like team and just apply it. And you know that your sales team or your customer support or even you can go through the list to filter people that were interested in a team plan as opposed to an individual plan. And as you can see, whenever I'm dropping these, they mostly go on top of the closest kind of, let's call it blue dot you're going towards. So that's what you're going to connect it to, if that makes sense. So if we drag this now, you have to basically pull it like this. Again, let me show you again. So if you just move an action we already have, it's not going to be connected. Instead, you have to click on the blue dot and drag it on top of your action. And let's just see a couple of more actions just to kind of understand when you might want to use them. Because, it's simple things. Like if you've added a tag, you might want to remove it. So, for example, if somebody doesn't want, maybe specific promotions from your end in the future, you're going to have to remove them and unsubscribe them maybe from your email list and so on. It depends on, why they reach out to you to begin with. So, these are things you're going to be able to add in time as new requests come in. So, for example, if somebody comes in and says they're interested in a certain feature you have or a feature you don't have, you can add them to a Google Sheet and kind of make a list of people that are interested in a certain feature. Or you can manually then come in and add the specific feature they want. So you can kind of have like a ranking of features you might want to prioritize for development in the future. And there's also a lot of options like creating a deal, adding a CRM deal, or editing it, enrolling them in a course. So if you sell courses online, you can simply go and click on enroll in the course, but you do need to have a course in SendPulse created. I don't have one, so that's why I cannot select this, right? And basically what's going to happen is, your typical, oh, I'm interested in this course, can I try it out? And you can just like send them a link to it. And then there's also other like backend operations, like, getting notifications, adding a note, and so on. By the way, with each of these, as you can see, you can duplicate them. So you can add them as many times as, needed. Just in case you, for example, want to have multiple case scenarios for ending a chat or adding a note or adding a tag. Then there's filters. And as you can see, there's a filter here, but we're just going to build one from scratch just so you see kind of like the logic behind them. So the way this works is somebody reaches out to you and then it's up to you to decide, what happens next. So for example, if their language is Portuguese, then we're going to add an action. And an action is going to be something like adding a tag for Portugal or adding a note or redirecting them to a person who speaks Portuguese. Or you have other options as well, like depending on the day of the week. Like, again, if somebody reaches out to you on the weekend and you're not working then, you might want to, let's select again, if somebody reaches out to you on a Saturday, we're going to remove this action item right here. So this time we're going to send them a message, kind of like this. And as you can see, the green dot this time is connected to the blue dot. And this time we're going to be writing something in Portuguese or whatever to kind of start talking with them. So for example, if they have a note, this might take some time if you do want to reply to everyone in their native language, or if you want to cover extensive topics, because you do have to kind of manually add in all of these messages, if you will, in theory at least, because in practice you can just copy the message and translate it. And again, yes, you're going to have to duplicate this, but at least from the translation perspective, you're covered. And so this is it for filters. Again, there's a bunch of options in here, and pretty much you can get as detailed with these as possible. You even have this option for was in flow. So for instance, if you have multiple flows, you'll know that a person comes from a certain flow, like the pricing page flow, or maybe they asked about a certain product. So when they're now maybe a month later in a different flow, you can, maybe redirect them to something that's relevant. So for example, you have a customer that's on a free plan, so a free user. You can say, just redirect them from the free plan flow to a paid plan flow. So knowing they've been a free user, you'll just kind of edit the messages, adapt the messages to upsell them as much as possible. Or, maybe you want to get some feedback from them. It depends on your needs. You also have the pause option in here, which really allows you to pause a flow. So this is good if, for example, you don't want to talk to your website visitors or customers too much, and you want to make sure there's a couple of, maybe weeks in between the messages you send to them, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to send all of these messages at once, maybe at the beginning of their time with you. So when they've just entered your website, or when they've maybe become a new student for your course, and that we don't want that. So that's why you have the delay in here. Something else that's interesting is, yes, you can add a delay of 1 minute. This might create kind of like the illusion that people are talking to a real person. But I don't think you want that, because after all, people do want replies as quickly as possible. So, try to deliver upon that promise. Then you also have an AI step, which really is kind of like a way of speeding up things and actually having the AI talk to these people. So in here, you're going to add the bot instructions and just some other details essentially, and also how long you want this AI intervention to last, for a couple of hours, a couple of minutes, and so on. But as you can see here, what this is going to look like is essentially sometimes the AI might come in to send a reply to a subscriber or customer, or website visitor. This is handy if, again, if you don't work on a weekend and don't have the time to reply, then the bot can come in and help with a couple of basic questions, maybe like pricing related stuff. You also have an API request option in here, but this is advanced and you need to essentially set it up with your developer, just in case you want to maybe connect SendPulse to a tool you're already using, or just customize the flow with the next level stuff. You also have a random choice option in here, which is really going to split your flow randomly by thresholds. So what this happens is, let's call it, it kind of lets you A/B test different messages, for instance. So that's why you can actually come and connect it, as you can see, with two messages at once. Let me just remove this AI stuff so it's clearer for you. But as you can see, let me clean up this a bit. Okay, so as you can see now, you have two different messages, right? Don't look at what the text is right now, but you get the point. Like, you can have two different variations for a message that you can try out, so to say. And you also have a repeat option. So what this is going to do is I can connect it, for example, with this message right here. As you can notice, this message was actually disconnected from the random choice option, because now, since you're going to be repeating this, you're not actually testing the same situation, because you'd be testing one of these messages against this message, but like twice, if that makes sense. So you can't really use all of these together, if you will. But that's good because it helps you kind of keep your workflows cleaner, so to say. By the way, try to keep these workflows, at least at the beginning, as clean as possible, just so they're easier to manage. Because what happens is when you start introducing different personas, when you start introducing different languages, different tags, even different flows into this, it's gonna be a mess to manage. Note, this is actually normal. So in time, you will have this. It just depends on, how extensive you want to get with this. Yeah, but again, for repetition, you have the exact time frame as well as how often you want the message to be repeated. So, for example, if you want to notify your users or subscribers or course attendees about a new feature, maybe you have a guide you've launched, you can actually use the live chat for pop ups, if you will, kind of like push notifications, but within the platform itself. And basically, every now and then, they'll see a reminder of that message, if you will. And if you use the filter onto this, so for example, if I can, let's disconnect it from this message and connect the filter to this repeat option. Now I can go to filter and decide, if somebody hasn't had a lot of activity, or if somebody has a certain tag, I can take them out of this repetition. So a lot of people might come to you and say they don't want to receive messages as often, or maybe there's people that have said they were not interested in any other features. They're happy with what they're using. They're happy with the course they bought. They don't want anything else. Again, you can just tag them and take them out of this. In that case, by the way, between repeat and filter, you would have an action like a tag. And then the filter comes in and takes them out of that, message repetition. And yeah, the thing is, if you start having a lot of people who don't want to receive certain types of messaging, or if you have a lot of people that are in very different categories, like different tags, like, free users versus paid users, or newer students and more advanced students, you will always want, like, let's say, different flows for them, or at least different directions of the flow, just to make sure they're not getting too many messages or the wrong messages. And finally, you have a comment in here. This is like you can just edit anywhere and kind of collaborate with, your team members or whoever's helping you with this. Like you can even work with a consultant to set these up. And you'd basically leave your feedback and thoughts in here. Again, don't forget to save everything. Yes, I don't have the correct data in here because I just kind of showed you how this works. And if you do work with a collaborator, you also have the option to share this flow. So it depends. And basically, if this is saved, this should be live on your website as well, like straight away. And one final thing is, how I showed you how to structure your bot. You also have the audience options in here, which will literally show you, like, who's using this live chat and some statistics as well, if you will. And by the way, this is also where you can come in and unsubscribe people if they just don't want to receive messages in the future. Note again, you have a bunch of other options in here with using SendPulse. If you'd like to see anything specific, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget about the discount in case you do want to try it out, just so you're not paying the full sum from, the first month. My recommendation is, if you do want to test this out, get the discount, try it for 1 month, see if you like it, see if it helps you, and then get maybe an annual plan or whatever. That's it for today, and I'll see you next time. Have a nice day. Bye.